Okay, that's my first fade out since my Kelvin Harris workshop. For my birthday in December, my lovely wife Cindy got me a gift certificate for a Kelvin Harris. He's one of those DJs the kids love. Workshops, and I went head over, and it's in Ibiza, and we took care of it, and there it is. So I'm glad. Hey, Kamari, I'm glad you got to experience that. You're the first person that's got to see that. Maybe one of the only people that get to see it. It's kind of depending on how this broadcast goes. But yeah, well, welcome to the Scary Alvarez podcast, which has already lasted almost as long as Fran McCaffrey weirdly staring at a referee who's calling the game fairly. I'm, I'm your host, Scary Alvarez, Wine Island enjoyer, Sherry Wine destroyer, Dick's grandpa, and Cindy's plus one, which will have me. And today we'll be talking with Badger point guard Kamari McGee, who has been injured a while and for some reason still won't take me up on my challenge to race me in the 40-yard dash right now. Spoiler, you'd still beat me in a walking boot. My hip has more titanium in it than an F-16 fighter jet. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, I'm glad to be a part of the show, man. It's an honor. It really is, and I'm out of the boot too, so I really would beat you now.
Okay, I'm going to say that I feel like people think I have a lot of self confidence. Some might say call it something else. I feel like boot, no boot. You could probably squeak that one out if we were to race, but we'll see. I tell people I run a 4.44 instead of 40, so I can go 4 yards in 4.4 seconds.
For sure. We can get that. We can put that race to the test for sure.
Okay, let's do it postseason though. Well, I don't want Gard getting mad at me if you tweak your ankle racing a 76-year-old.
Okay, postseason. I'm ready. If you're ready,
Sounds
I'm
good.
ready.
Cool. And a reminder: speak loud. Pretend I'm Greg Gard yelling at you for saying that Bill Ryan shouldn't be in the Naismith Hall of Fame.
Okay, bet. I'll make sure I project my voice a little more. I got you.
Appreciate it. Well,
I
let's start
got
off by having you introduce yourself. I mean, I know most of my viewers know you and your game, but still kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and a few things they should know about you before we get started.
Well, like you guys said, like I'm Kamari McGee. I'm sure everybody knows. I'm Wisconsin, born and raised in Wisconsin. I'm from Racine, about an hour and a half away, not too far. Yeah, I feel like I'm an open book though. I feel like everybody already knows a lot about me. I'm always happy, smiley. And my recovery has been going well too. I know that's what a lot of people want to hear. I will be back soon.
Well, that's good to hear. I knew, not that I'm an ankle surgeon or anything, but I knew when you tweaked that, several games ago, you could tell that it wasn't great. And
Hmm.
not just because you were being helped off the court by your teammates, but injuries are tough. And so it's wonderful news, not only for you personally, but also for the team that you're going to be back soon. It'll be fun to see you back on the court.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And this was what's crazy about the injury is this is my first like serious injury. So at first I didn't know how to feel about it, but my teammates helped get me through. My coach helped me get through. Coaches, the whole coaching staff. So I just give a big salute to them.
Yeah, they're good. They're good. Back when I was starting out at Wisconsin in the early '90s, whenever there was a leg or ankle injury, assuming that the bone wasn't sticking out of the skin, we would rub a little dirt on it, give him some ice, and say go back out there. I think times have changed for the better. That we have a little bit better treatment of ankle injuries and others. So that's good to hear. And you said you're from Racine. Please tell me a little bit more about Racine. Kamari, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I was gonna
So,
say, yeah, I don't even.
jokes aside, one of my favorite football players of all time, Brett Moss, rest in peace, is from Racine, as it was his friend J.C. Dawkins, who were both obviously tremendous Badgers way before your time, back in the early '90s, and both were Rose Bowl champions for me in '94. So I know Racine is a good recruiting hotbed, not only for football but for basketball as well.
For sure, 100%.
All right. So I know that you started your college career in Green Bay. What was it like to move to a real city when you came to Madison?
It definitely was. What I would say like a culture shock. It was just different, like because the campus, like it's a campus town, like the town, like it's a college town. Like Green Bay really wasn't that. Like you didn't. The campus was secluded. It was like you had to drive through woods to get through it. It was a big difference. Like seeing everybody, like seeing a whole bunch of people. It definitely was a huge culture shock. But I felt I fit in right away. Like I was able to get comfortable. Like the guys made me feel comfortable right when I making my transition. So it definitely was a big change, but I embraced the change.
Yeah, I mean it's and there's a couple other guys who made AJ Store, other guys who made transfer moves. When you and obviously do we get too personal here, but when you're making that decision to transfer a year ago, who were the guys on the team who kind of helped you through the process more than any others? I mean, was there someone who kind of rolled out the red carpet and really showed you the ropes?
100%, and it was Chucky. He was when I came for my visit back a few Aprils ago. Chuck was here when I was taking my pictures with the uniform on and everything. He was here walking around with my family, talking to us. And then even after I had already committed, I would come back every weekend for the rest of April until the school year was over. I would come back every weekend and just hang out with Chuck. So he really just made me feel comfortable in that process and making that transition.
What was it about Greg Gard's Badger program that made you want to make that transfer?
When I first met with Coach Gard and Coach Crab, they preached the winning basketball to me. And growing up, I've always came from winning basketball. I played basketball at St. Catherine's High School for my high school coach, Nick Bennett, a part of the Bennett family. So I grew up around just being in the culture of winning basketball, and that's what Coach Gard and the coaching staff preached to me, and I bought in. And it's true. Like Wisconsin wins, so I felt like this was the place to be. It just reminded me so much of what I was playing around in high school, so that definitely made me feel more comfortable.
Yeah, that all makes sense. And one of the things I hesitate to use the words take for granted because fans can feel however they want to feel about their team. That's their right as fans. It's okay.
Hmm.
But I think it from a 10,000 foot view, and as someone who's been around the program a long time, the high level of basketball excellence that Wisconsin basketball has had going back over 25 years to even before Bo Ryan got there. And yeah, there've been a couple of down seasons. I mean, no
Hmm.
one last year didn't want to make the NCAA tournament, but the program was still on stable ground. I think sometimes Wisconsin fans take it for granted a little bit just how good this program has been. And I have to imagine as part of the appeal of the program for you is seeing not just the Final Four teams with Kaminsky and Decker, but
Hmm.
seeing these other just all these guys that have come through the program. And Wisconsin's always even in their not great seasons, is always a tough out, always fills the Kohl Center up. Yeah, I imagine that culture had to be a part of it.
Yes, the culture definitely was a part of it. That's kind of what sold me because coming from Green Bay, we didn't really have much of a fan base at the time. Like, don't get me wrong, I would never discredit Green Bay. Like that was my first school I went to. I always got mad respect for their program. But we just at the time we just didn't have the fan base, the support that the Badgers do. So it was just it definitely was a major part. Like knowing that even before I transferred, there was fans that were like, "Oh, we want Kamari McGee," and I hadn't even entered the portal yet. So it was just that just made me feel very, very good about coming here, just knowing how strong the fan base supports the Badgers.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I know there are always going to be malcontents in every fan base who are going to be kind of the louder ones you hear. But I do think as a general matter, Wisconsin basketball has great fans. I mean, I
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of very loyal, stable, sensical fans that if for example you lose 5 out of 6, they don't completely have a meltdown. They realize it's a long season. Teams will pull out of it. Maybe there was an injury to a key player. There's all kinds of things that can go into a season, but I do think as much as we hear the guard stuff, I just think this is generally speaking a very good fan base, and I hope it's been fun playing in front of these guys
Oh,
and winning.
100%. I love playing in front of Badger Nation.
Yeah. Hey, you mentioned you were in Green Bay. You're aware there was a football team up there too.
Yes, yes, the Packers. I'm not really a big football fan, but I'm well aware of the Packers.
Okay, you're not a big. We explore this sometimes these non-basketball things. You're not a big football fan, but hypothetically, if there were a game up in Green Bay between the Bears and the Packers late in the season that the Packers needed to win to make the playoffs, which team would you have hypothetically been rooting for in that game?
The Packers,
Okay,
100%.
I feel like I set that one up for an easy spike for you, Kamari.
It
It's
was
a good.
I mean, being in Green Bay, people used to ask me all the time if I was a fan of the Packers, and by default, I would just say yes because I knew if I said no and I lived in Green Bay, it would be a problem. So I was just by default,
You're
Packers
you're a
fan.
wise man. You're a wise man. But is I know Racine is geographically, but are there Bears fans in Racine? Is that something because it's so close to the border? Is that something that you saw, or just more like you weren't that into NFL?
Yeah, honestly, I wasn't that much in the NFL, so
Okay.
it probably would have Bears fans could have been walking past me and I wouldn't have even known.
Okay. Are you a Bucks fan?
Yeah, rep the
Okay.
home
Well, then
team.
you're thinking about it there. Okay. Okay.
Rep
Because
the home team.
by the same token, the Bulls aren't too far from Racine either, and I know that's for a lot of years that was a pretty good franchise. I don't think they're any good anymore. But
Mhm.
yeah, I don't make any secret about my love of the Milwaukee Bucks. I know it's not as much as it is for the Badgers, but I do think it's a little bit of a struggle for that team this season. But we'll see if they can get the ship right with Doc Rivers.
Yeah, I hope they can turn it around with Doc. Doc, I feel like he's a pretty good coach, so I hope they can turn it around.
I hope so too. He's seen a thing or two. Um, Now we're gonna kind of bop around between basketball and culture stuff. What is your favorite place to eat on the Wisconsin campus?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh, that's a great question, man. I like going to the terrace and just eating on the terrace. It's a beautiful like scenery. Just going out there. It's a little burger spot inside the terrace too. That's fire. The Memorial Terrace, and that's probably my favorite spot to go in the summer, just because it's like sometimes they have a live band out there performing, and it's just a good vibe out there.
I love it. I love it. I will say this is an insider tip. It is a lot easier to get a table there in December on the terrace if you're so
For
inclined.
sure.
And the ice cream lines are a little shorter. But yeah, the union is great. And I do know, basketball recruiting is a year-round thing. And I always kind of say, please take these guys for their visits, after April and before November. I think that's
Yeah,
you just get a little bit different vibe on the Madison campus during those months.
you do. You definitely do.
But you're obviously having grown up in Wisconsin. No one was going to fool you. You know what the weather's going to be, so it's not. You've grown up in that your whole life. So
Yeah.
most of your teammates, and I had the freshmen on, or three of the four freshmen on uh, earlier in an earlier podcast, and I was trying to tweak them about coming to Madison for the weather, but one's from Minnesota or Minneapolis area. Gus Bus he was a Wisconsin kid who was in Indiana. John
Mhm.
was a Detroit area guy, so there wasn't really too much of a geographic
A
culture
different.
shock for that weather.
Yeah.
So you're handling it.
Yeah, for sure. Like a lot of the guys come from like it's not too many guys who come from the warmer states, so they are they knew what they were getting themselves into.
It helps. Not all the guys on the team, at least there was just a new NIL ruling announced a few minutes ago. We don't have to go too into, but for now, the players don't have their own private planes. Like I do, I can just kind of jet down to one of my wine islands in the Caribbean when it gets a little bit cold for my blood. Y'all kind of just you can turn the heat up in the dorm room. I think that's kind of helping. That's about the best thing that the players can do. But that's all right. Do they have you all living in the same apartment or dorm now? They used to be kind of spread out, but how is that? Like, you're not Nog Hall or something like that, right?
Nah, we all live in different apartments. Some guys like live in the same apartments, and but we're kind of spread out. But it's all like close in walking distance though, not too far
Okay,
from each other.
gotcha. Be careful with those scooters. I see people driving those things, and I feel like that's a trip to Merida waiting to happen.
Yeah,
Seeing those things on
nah,
the street. You just
I don't
be
really
promise
ride my
me.
scooter no more.
Yeah, take good care of that ankle.
For
Um,
sure.
so jumping back to basketball, we like to kind of get personal on these things. Tell me one really cool thing about being on the Wisconsin basketball team that the average fan wouldn't know about. Something that's just very unique to the program and yourself.
Mm, that's wait. You gotta ask that again. That's a good question. Hold on.
No, that's okay. So yeah. So like just and it doesn't have to be anything, wowing, but just something about being a Wisconsin basketball player that is just something you think is really cool. And it's not something that's obvious. Like hey, we get training table, and people know that, and that's it. I happen to love the food when I have the New York strip 24 ounce New York strip steaks set up for me and Jake Ferguson, but the just kind of a perk or a cool thing about being on the team.
I would say the brotherhood of everybody on the team. Like nobody dislikes anybody. The brotherhood of the Wisconsin, like our program now is great. Like that's one thing that drew me to come in here was they made me feel comfortable right away. They made me feel like I had been playing with them for years. Like I had knew each and every one of them growing up, and that's like a big thing that I feel like the outsiders can't really see. And I mean, it might not be obvious, or people probably can see it, but that brotherhood is real strong. All 18 guys, it's like everybody has each other's backs, and that's what's really special about the Wisconsin basketball team.
Well, that's cool. That's good to hear. I know not every program has that same kind of camaraderie. And I think for those looking in from the outside, I think the Big Ten Network show when y'all were in France, I think it was 2022 summer 22,
Mm-hmm.
and got to show people kind of interacting outside of the basketball court context. I always make the joke about the Siege, asking for like $100 to jump in the river in France, just things like that, things you don't see every day. But that it just kind of seemed to me as an outside observer, there was a lot of chemistry is kind of an overused term, but that you all got along. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
for lack of a better word, and just kind of had each other's backs and just were able to have fun and let your guard down, or not, no pun intended, um, and just kind of do it. So that doesn't surprise me. I'm glad to hear that. Well, kind of along those lines, and I asked this to a couple other guys. I think Blackwell Winter and Gus Bus, but who's the comedian of the team? Like who's the most likely to come on a Scary Alvarez podcast? It might be, you can't name yourself, but who? Because someone brought your name up previously, but someone who could come on a Scary Alvarez podcast hypothetically and just really have a banger. Just keep that audience rolling.
Oh man, I'll probably say Ross Candelino. My guy Ross. He'll be the one to come on here and just all the laughs, all the giggles, the smiles. For if I couldn't pick myself, I would say him for sure.
Okay, well you were nominated, so you're already there. And someone else said Klesman. I can't remember who.
Klez too, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Klez is up there too,
He's
for
he's a
sure.
funny guy. It's interesting because on the court, and there's not I understand obviously from my football connections that what you show on the court isn't necessarily what you are off the court. Klesman looks real like you don't see a lot of like that's the dude I'd be like, oh, he must be just a hoot off the court. I mean, he almost seems like he's got the mad dog face always, and he's really
Mhm.
locked in. So it's good to see that he can kind of turn that off in other times.
Yeah, that's what's good about this. That's like what makes us a good team is because even when we practicing, like it's the same. We once we step in them four lines, ain't no friends. Like there's no friends. So in practice and games, it's all the same. That's why like being able to turn that switch off, like when you're not playing, is good. But yeah, he definitely has that mad dog face, and you wouldn't think that he would be a jokester, but he really is when we are not playing and off the court.
Yeah, well, it's good. It's good to hear he has that duality. It's an exciting character. What other Wisconsin sports do you like to watch, especially in person? I know you're
Volleyball.
busy. Volleyball, okay.
Volleyball. I never watched volleyball, but when I got here and to realize how good the team was and like how the fans really loved them, volleyball for sure.
Okay. I had Devin and Cece on the podcast last October, and I posed a question to them that if the men's basketball team played the volleyball team in volleyball, would you be able to get a point in 3 sets? And predictably, their answer was no, you would not be. And that looks like there's a little bit of a rivalry building. And I suggested there be a home and home, right? So you play them in volleyball, and
Hmm.
then they have to come play you in basketball.
That's
And,
fair.
and
It's
I,
only
they
fair.
seem like they're up, and I couldn't tell. I mean, I'm obviously like 6'8", very dominating. Well, so, some say I'm 5'10", but I don't listen to that. They don't know
Yeah,
the
me
truth.
neither.
But yeah, exactly right. I list myself a little taller as some other people do than I am. But I do. It was surprising to see some of these volleyball players are very tall. I mean,
No, they
it's
are.
disarmingly tall, like tall for Division I men's basketball players. So they definitely would be tough around the in the inside game. Do they have the perimeter stuff? I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm gonna mark you down. Maybe a season would do it too, and we'll get a. I know you guys did a little bit of a game earlier this past year, but we need a
Yeah, when they was
full
teaching us how to play volleyball.
yeah, we need a full home and home match, and I think the early money in Vegas is on the volleyball team. But don't let that get you down. Keep preparing. Um, and have you been out to a hockey game yet?
I've been to one of the women's. I've been to a women's hockey game before, and I really liked that too. I never really watched hockey either, so that was my first hockey game, and I enjoyed that too. I see that they're pretty good too, and the men's are doing their thing this year too. So
Yeah.
I probably should get to a game or two, but I have seen the women play before.
Well, that's another favorite of mine. It's such a fun sport, and the women are just. I mean, the women are basically like, I mean, they're a blue blood, like probably the best program historically in college hockey, which is incredible. And then the men's program, the turnaround they've had this year
It's
under new
great.
coach Mike Hastings, it's unbelievable. A little bit of a stumble in Columbus that does happen to Badger teams sometimes, but not you guys. But they are number 6 in the country after winning 6 games last season. That is an incredible turnaround, and they got so much talent. So hope you can get out to. I know it's tricky when you have the same season, and you got your stuff, but
Hmm.
hopefully they'll stick around and make a run. Um, Here's one that I know people are going to wonder, and it doesn't have to be any details you don't feel comfortable getting, obviously, unless you want to.
Hmm.
But what it's, I mean, you talked about the program kind of more generically, but specifically playing for Coach Gard. When he's coaching in practice or on the bench, what makes him the guy you want to play for?
Um, One thing that really stood out to me is that, like, say if you're in like the wrong position or something, like he'll yell at you, let you know it, and then like after, like he'll come pull you to the side and like talk to you. So like he won't just, most coaches just like yell at you just dead in your face, and you sometimes you might not even know what you did wrong. But Coach Gar, like in the moment, in the heat of the moment, he'll yell at you, and then like say he just pull you out real quick, he'll like when you come to the bench, he'll talk to you, let you know what happened, and just like so it's a good like the discipline, and then like letting you know like, hey, this is where what went wrong, what you did wrong, and how you can like correct it. That's what really like drew me to him. He is like he's open to just like, and he's open to feedback too. Like if we feel like we were in the right, did something like we did something right, and he just missed it, like he's open to hearing that back too. Just like it's a mutual respect, and that's what I like about Coach Gard and his coaching.
It's good to hear. Um, Tell me about your favorite moment so far as a member of the Badgers on the court.
Uh, Man, that's a great question. I would say back earlier this season, winning the little championship in Florida. That was big. Just being out there because that was over Thanksgiving. Usually for Thanksgiving you with your family. And yeah, since we were out there in Florida, like that was just big. That was like one of my favorite moments. Like other than besides going to like France and there go Coach Gar right there.
Hey,
Besides going to
he's
like
free. Hey, Coach, feel free to hop in anytime.
he walked back out. He walked back out.
Okay, that's fine. We'll talk later.
But yeah, I would say just winning that, going out there in Florida and winning that with my brothers, that was probably one of my favorite memories.
That was a good weekend of basketball. And if I remember correctly, you guys really took it to Virginia in that tournament. Was that correct? And then
Hmm.
had to turn around and play another good team, SMU, I believe, and
Hmm.
took care of them handily. I think that's when the fan base, if not the team, knew that this team was for real this season. It was going to be different than last year, and then you guys had a lot more pieces and parts and cohesion, and that AJ Store was going to come in and be a big part of it. Um, I suspect that was kind of the same vibe in the locker room after that tournament.
That just opened our eyes even more, just because we knew we had put the work in, but that really just like set the bar. Like, all right, yeah, we know we're a good team now. We know what we got to do to be a better team.
again, it doesn't have to be a specific thing that you're told or you do, but what happened? How does the locker room handle a tough time? Let's say there's a losing streak, or there's something just the game doesn't go quite the way you want to in overtime. It seems like this team has some resilience to it, and where does that come from? What's the how do y'all handle that and move on?
Because we know we're not just playing for ourselves. We know we playing, it's bigger than basketball. We know we playing, it's just deeper than basketball goes. Like, we know we're not just playing for ourselves or for the coaches, but we're playing for our, like, everybody has their own why, like why they play the sport. So we realize that it's bigger than just ourselves, that we playing for our brothers, to like the all 18 of the players, that we playing for each other. And that's what really helps us get out of the ruts or the bad patches that we go through. Just got to keep your head going, and knowing that your brother is there to pick you up, and knowing that you're doing it for him, and that we got each other's backs. That's what really helps us get out of those ruts.
Well, that's good to hear, and I think a lot of times the ruts are bigger for the fan base than they are for the team itself. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's something I've observed in the football context. Not to say that there can't be slumps. I mean, that happens sometimes, but I feel like the people in that locker room, they're the ones who can control it, right? Fans feel helpless, and they feel like, oh
Mm-hmm.
no, and and I think that's probably why that dynamic happens like that. But that was a nice win against Maryland, and I'm excited to see y'all, finish the year strong with your next 4 games and then into the tournaments.
Yes, sir. That's the goal. You just got to take it one game at a time. Like, we can't focus on the games that we lost, the streak that we had. We just got to focus on that next game and keep building from there.
Absolutely. Uh, who would I'm sorry. What would you say your favorite place to play on the road is?
Um, I would probably I like where we going on Tuesday, Indiana Assembly Hall. Just because it kind of reminds me of my high school gym, like with all the fans, like it's kind of like they're sitting on top of you, like looking down, watching the game, and that's kind of how my high school gym was set up. So I really find it interesting to play in there. I'm sad I'm not playing, but it'll be cool to be in there though.
Yeah, we'll just keep it. You may or may not be playing. We'll see. We'll keep that. We don't want to give it intel. This is probably not going to air for a few days anyway. But anyway, that's yeah. Assembly Hall is something, and obviously there were a lot of really good Indiana teams in the in the past that have
Mm-hmm.
gone through there. Um, who would you say the Badgers' biggest rival is?
Oh, that's a great question. The biggest rival, like, does it got to be in the conference?
Nope. Anyone. And by the way, you saying one team, I want to be clear out there for anyone who's listening. You're not saying that like the team you're not naming isn't a big rival. I'm just trying to get a game that kind of gets you hyped up and gets the guys in the locker room more excited than any other game.
That Marquette, that game, every year that game against Marquette, for sure.
Yeah.
That in-state
Yeah.
rivalry is just, I feel like that's one of the biggest ones. No discredit to any other team, because every game is a good game.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I
playing in
would
the Big
say
Ten.
Marquette. Hmm?
Yeah. And obviously it helps when your 2 years as a Badger, those games have gone pretty well.
For
So
sure.
that's good to hear. So we're going to play a word association game as we wrap up pretty soon here, and I'm going to say a word or words or name, and I want you to say the first thing that comes to your mind. Don't think about too much. Just spout it off.
All
Okay.
right.
Um, the Hill.
Running.
Okay.
That's
The
exact.
Iowa
That's a
Hawk. The Iowa Hawkeyes.
Fran McCaffrey, they coach.
Fran would greatly approve of that answer. The fact that you said his name, he'd love it.
I'm sure he would.
Let me test this one. Hunter Dickinson.
Kansas.
I feel I feel like you're being very kind there, but I'll let
Nah,
that go.
that's honestly the first, because like
Okay, that's
I
fair.
just pictured him in a Kansas jersey, and I just pictured the saying Kansas.
Yeah, some people picture him in a mask. Some people
I
picture him like he had.
Yeah.
That was wild. Um, Jake Ferguson.
Oh, wait, you gotta come back.
Wait, what?
Wait, because I didn't even know what to say. I didn't know what to
Jake
say.
Ferguson. Jake Ferguson, Dallas Cowboys, Wisconsin Badgers, tight end. Might be a
No,
grandson
yeah.
of someone.
Yeah, I just did. I couldn't even. I was blanking on what to
Okay.
say.
Greatest of all time. That might we'd accept that answer.
I take that.
Uh,
I would take that.
yeah, and don't get me wrong. I mean, we already established, you're at least sort of a Packer fan, and he plays for the Cowboys. So, when the Packers played the Cowboys in the playoffs, it was a little bit of a difficult situation for me with my grandson on the Cowboys. But Jake did get 3 touchdowns in that game, so
Hey,
that
there we
was
go. Shout out to
yeah,
Jake.
got it. And who is your favorite ex-Wisconsin basketball player, and why?
Uh, Brevin Pritzel
Okay,
is my favorite one because when I was making, I played for his brother. His brother was an assistant coach at Green Bay, and when I making my transition coming here, that spring into that summer, I was working out with Brevin. He was helping me with my shot. Like I was just shooting with him nonstop. And I always had after that I've always had mad love for Brevin. Like he's always been there for me. He reach out every once in a while, just checking in, see how I'm doing. So definitely one of my favorite Badgers before me.
well, that's good to hear. And occasionally, in some games, I wish that Brevin could come back and take a couple threes because
Same.
he was a really good 3-point shooter, kind of a specialist, but he also did some good things. He became a really good defender by his senior year. So that it was we miss him, and he was a great part of the team.
Yeah,
Um,
Brevin is my guy.
okay, and two more questions. If it were only up to you, you were the athletic director. You're Chris McIntosh,
Hmm.
and there are no repercussions to this. Would you consider putting students on the sidelines low in the Kohl Center?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I would 100%.
What does that do to the? I mean, and this isn't. I want to be clear. You're not dissing the atmosphere of the Kohl Center because you already said there's great fans there. But there are things you can do, like look the Spartans, Michigan State Spartans, the Wolverines, Duke. The way I mean, I don't like those teams, but the way they do it with their fans right on the
Hmm.
court like that. I just feel like in the Kohl Center that could be such a competitive advantage, even above and beyond home court advantage. And it sounds like you'd like to see that too.
For sure. Like I feel like it would be more of an advantage because I feel like the Cold Center is already a hard place for other teams to come in and really play at their best. So I feel like having those fans like right there, the student section just right around them, that just adds a little bit. It's just a little bit more pressure that might be needed. Some games you never know.
Agreed. I think that's great, and I think that's exactly what should be done. And so, any student who then wants to sit in those seats will just say, "Kamari McGee said that I need to take your seat now," and that 60-year-old donor will just happily walk up 30 rows and
No,
be
no.
very.
I
I know
love
that's
all
not
the
what you're saying,
donors.
but that's we'll go with that. Finally, you got to rank these three things. Order one being the thing that you want the most, and three being the least of the three.
Okay.
A free lifetime pass to the Madison restaurant of your choice. This is beyond basketball.
Okay.
Making the Sweet 16 this year
Okay.
and being on this podcast right now. Go.
Well,
It's a tough one.
man.
Is that
Uh
too easy? Being on a podcast is easily number one. You can just do 2 and 3 if you want.
I'm a so my one is making that Sweet 16. That's one.
Okay, fine.
Uh my two is the podcast.
There we go.
My
That's
two is the
hey Kamari. That
podcast.
works. That works.
My
Uh,
three, because I don't really I'm a picky eater, so I mean I the restaurant don't matter.
okay.
The
But
restaurant,
you're
I
older
just
and
put
more
that shit.
mature. When I posed that a similar question, a similar triad to the freshmen this year, at least Blackwell and Winter, I feel correctly answered the Scary Alvarez podcast. I think they might have felt slightly coerced to say that. So it's good to see that an upperclassman in your stature is able to know what really matters to you. So I can respect that.
For
That's good
sure.
stuff. Well, Kamari, thanks for jumping on today. I really appreciate it. I hope you continue to heal up. I'm very excited to get you back on the court, and best of luck. Not only next week at Indiana, but going forward with the rest of the Big Ten season, the Big Ten tournament, and the NCAA tournament. Don't be a stranger.
Man, I appreciate that. I'm thanks for having me, man. It was an honor. I had fun for sure.
Great to have you.
Yes, sir.